Hello my fellow hammerheads and welcome to the 4th lore part for the Hedonites of Slaanesh. In this video I will talk about the heroes and unique characters of the Battle Tome. But before we begin, I recommend that you buy and read the Battle Tome and the stories for yourself, because only this way we can support Games Workshop, the Black Library, the authors, and you can enjoy the unabridged stories for yourself. As always, I will provide the faction-specific terminology in the description box down below. As for every new wonderful being watching this, as every video could be someone's first, these lore videos are meant to be role-played. I don the mantle of a traveler who gathers information about the lore and welcomes you in my newly set up Hammerhead Inn, which is located somewhere in the Mortal Realms. Now, I won't waste any more of your time, let's begin. Hello my friend. Welcome back to the Hammerhead Inn. Please, grab yourself something to drink. I will be right with you. I see that you made yourself comfortable. Very good. I want you to enjoy your time with my stories. This time I have something special for you. Because the last time we met, I told you about the society and the lower echelon of the Hedonites. Now I can tell you more about their leaders and some of their unique characters. No matter if it is a demon or a mortal, leadership is required. Like I mentioned before, it is much like a friend who shows you something new. They will lead the devotees of Slaanesh into the depths of sensation in which there is no way out. You could call them muses. Inspiring mortals not to do great works, but to spiral into damnation of addiction. Leading their victims to self-destruction, narcissism and paranoia, these individuals are corrupting reality and warping the mortal realms in the Dark Prince's image. We know them as the Heralds of Slaanesh. They are subtler than their greater counterparts, as they have to enact precise ploys. The majority of the Heralds are known as Viceleaders. They will find every immoral and impure individual and throw them into Slaanesh's loving embrace. Masters of the subtle art, they did spend weeks or up to several years to seduce certain mortals. Where they go, cults will bloom in the cities of the mortal realms. We know of one wise leader, but in the end it's just a name, as it is not really recognizable on the battlefield, but its exploits are worth mentioning. Glavia Sinhard is a former attendant to the Dark Prince. The demon was given the ability to manipulate and visit the dreams of the victims to trap them forever in a mental prison. Yet since the imprisonment of Slaanesh, Glavia was visited by visions herself, prophecies of the Dark Prince's location. On its journeys, they gathered like-minded seers and sensation seekers. During the assault on the 8 Points by the combined forces of Morathi and Sigmar, it was the Herald that warned and mobilized the armies of chaos. After the battle, Glavia followed Morathi to Ulgu, and its god-granted visions brought the Herald to a local Lord of Pain who had discovered that Morathi had captured Chaos worshippers from Khorne, Nurgle and Tzeentch in preparation for her ascension to godhood. It was Glavia's forces which attacked the forces of the Idoneth in Hagnar to give Morathi enough time to complete her ritual, but abandoned the fight as an indistinct form erupted from the top of the Khainite temple and arced away with lurid colors, the newborn which we know of right now. The next herald in the demon hierarchy is not one, but two at the same time. They are guardians of an ornate mirror of absorption, a contorted epitome. Made by a mortal in long forgotten times known by the name of Venatan, who specialized in crafting silvered mirrors. His works were sought after by the rich and noble and sparked narcissism everywhere. On his deathbed, Slaanesh reached out to Venatan and pulled him into the Temple of Twisted Mirrors, trapped for all eternity. In his attempts to escape, he developed and crafted the first mirror of absorption, strong enough to drain the power of his captor. But he did not calculate the immense vanity of the Dark Prince, and the mirror shattered. As this is a worthy idea to exploit, Slaanesh forced the crafter to create more mirrors for him, so that he could bind them into semi-sentient frameworks, guarded and guided by the two heralds. To destroy it, you have to use the humblest weapons. A stick is a good sword for an example. An old legend says that if you speak Venatan's name 6 times in front of a looking glass, he will emerge and slay you. But it's only a legend, right? If you are into music, you should be careful of the Infernal Enrapturesses. Through their music, they will control your emotions, from soothing to cheerful to enraged. It begins as a dream. The herald places a piece of music in the mind of the mortal. For the mortal, it is the most perfect symphony, and it will become a lifelong endeavor to reach the immaculate recreation of the song. Many die of starvation in their pursuits, but one will survive, and the Enrapturess will reveal herself. But for the song to be played how it was intended, the composer has to offer its own body as the instrument of execution. They become the heartstring lyre. Not the most common type of instrument, wouldn't you agree? The strings are tattered soul fragments and reverberate through physical and spiritual essences. Those who hear the melodies played by the lyre will be torn apart by their own muscles as they contract and then split apart by the fast rhythms. If it is their whole body or just the heart, their agony will be the inspiration for the next project. Before I tell you about the 2 recognizable heralds, there is one last type of the demonette leadership: the Bladebringers. First seen in the Age of Myth, these individuals wielded blades forged in the realm of Slaanesh. Burdened with a sacred duty to use these blades, they wanted to bear more than just one of the weapons. So they invented the bladed chariots of Slaanesh. At first, these chariots were used in the gardens of the Dark Prince's realm. In these gardens, the souls of those who wronged Slaanesh were buried underground with only their limbs stuck outside. So they drove over those poor souls, shredding their limbs into morbid little flowers. But that's not it for the victims of the blades. A curse of regrowth is cast on them, so that the demonettes can drive over the limbs over and over again for all eternity. There is a funny story behind one special Bladebringer. Its name is Shalaxi Helbane. As Nagash's necroquake shook the realms, a wave of Nighthaunt surged through Shaish, and Shalaxi took their speed as a great challenge to prove who is faster to kill a nearby village. The Bladebringer and its retinue got there first. Robbed of the souls of the villagers, the Nighthaunt dissipated into nothingness. But as usual, I digress. One very special herald is Syll'Esske and her companion Masque. Those two are permanently bonded to each other in a symbiotic bond, so they are just known as Syll'Esske. In a time before Slaanesh's imprisonment, Syll took quite the interest in the mortal warrior Esk. He was extremely receptive to Syll's patronage, and as her gladiator, they both rose through the ranks of the gladiatorial pits. But as usual, demonettes are jealous beasts, and they killed Syll and formed her anew as a soul grinder. Not able to bear her fate, Esk sacrificed himself for her so that Syll was able to regain her prior form. With Syll and Slaanesh working together, Esk was brought back to life as a demonic champion. Shortly after his resurrection, a Cornet blood legion sought to ravage the Palace of Pleasure, and Syll and Esk defended the throne of Slaanesh. They were rewarded by the deity's own hand, bound together, in which both fought as a single entity. Their first act was to wreak vengeance on their fellow demons who wronged them. So the Vengeful Alliance was born. The last special herald is known as the Masque. In a time before our realms were born into existence, the Masque was the most favored attendant of the Dark Prince. She was the one who was allowed to handle his hair and dance for him to lighten the god's mood. If it hadn't been for Tzeentch, the Masque would probably still be Slaanesh's favorite. The Great Schemer tricked Slaanesh into an unwinnable war against his other two brothers. With Slaanesh's defeat, the Masque attempted to cheer her deity up and raise his mood. But Slaanesh saw nothing but contempt for himself, as the Masque's stance was perfect in every way. In his rage, he cursed the Masque to dance for all eternity, a curse which persisted the death of a world and the birth of our new realms. Dancing throughout the realms, mortal and demon alike will become enchanted by her to dance along. As she retells the tales of Slaanesh's conquests and victories, she uses her stick of masks to switch between the characters. Everyone who joins in the dance acts like it has been rehearsed for many years. Every step, every move, perfect in synchronicity. This will be their last moves, as they will die by the dance through their own hands or through sheer exhaustion. Now that we have covered the heralds, these ones are the most terrifying of all the demons of Slaanesh. The Keepers of Secrets. When you see them for the first time, you might think that they are beautiful, tall beings of bliss. But they are in truth big ugly demons. The closest companions to the Dark Prince, they are highly intelligent, stronger than you might think, and they know every last desire of every mortal being. Knowledge which they will use to their advantage against their targets. If you encounter them, the Keepers of Secrets will show you your most intimate desires, even if you yourself are not aware of them, and it might shame you in front of everyone, or you might enrage. In the end, one thing helps against this kind of thought. Never judge anyone for their desires as long as it won't harm any living thing. If you survive your encounter, the thought will never leave you alone, and you will see the Keeper in your dreams, in the corner of your eyes, or hear it whispering when you are all alone. One day it will change you, because surviving a fight with the greater demon of Slaanesh will be your darkest secret, as you won't be able to talk about it. Usually you won't see them on the battlefield, as a Keeper of Secrets is basically the last resort of their patron. But when they stride upon the battlefield, you might see several of them at once. You might ask yourself why I can talk so casually about them, as I have witnessed many of their kind. I don't judge, and I don't keep my encounter with them as a secret stashed in my heart. They have no power in my inn. On the battlefield, however, they are terrifying combatants, graceful and sadistic. They enjoy every strike given and taken, extend the agony of their victims as long as possible to grant them the most painful death as possible. Artists of dark delights with an incredible reaction time as they devour everything and glut themselves on every moment. And yet, their knowledge is more than just a tool to torture and turn mortals to Slaanesh. So they are masters of the mystic arts as well. Magic is second nature to them. So beware, my friend. They might bewitch you in ways you would not think possible. I saw Stormcast paladins leaving their brothers and sisters behind just to touch, smell, or even taste the flesh of a keeper of secrets, just to be killed by their impaling claws. If you want, you can summon a keeper of secrets. If the depravity in a moment and spot is high enough, a keeper of secrets will smell the reek and cut itself a gateway to the mortal realms through a tear of reality, just like flesh with a pair of scissors. With its entry into the real world, it will take a moment to take in the scene. Like a conductor of war, it will pause just to unleash carnage. Singing while fighting, most foes will succumb and sell its immortal soul for a taste of sweet damnation. One of Slaanesh's favorite is Shalaxi Helbane, a duelist of great skill. It is her privilege and duty to seek and hunt enemy warlords. If one should rise too high, Shalaxi's soul will erupt in a mental impulse, and it will do everything in its power to find and kill her prey. Some say her tracking skills are so powerful that she is able to peek through realm gates and the etheric void which lies between our realm spheres. Only the Idoneth are somehow safe, as they deprive themselves of all sensation in the depths of the sea. Often she hunts alone, as not even demons of Slaanesh are able to follow her fast strides. But in the end, it will find its quarry, and it won't hide to assassinate the foe like the followers of Morathi Kane. It will speak in the tongue of Slaanesh, and it will challenge her target to a duel, which the enemy is not able to refuse. To see her strike the killing blow is to witness perfection. Her fighting style is devised to counter every kind of foe, but especially the other greater demons of chaos. Matching and beating them in their own fighting styles is by far more humiliating than anything else. A bloodthirster will be beaten with skill and subtlety rather than brute force. Studying the fighting styles of the other demons, it always has a trick up its sleeves. But there is one enemy which always eluded Shalaxi. Skarbrand, greater demon of Khorne and exile of the blood god. They dueled a few times already, but the real showdown will come. It might take another few centuries, but what is time to immortals? At last, there are the mortal champions. There aren't many of them, but still, they are important. Let us start with the two lesser ones. This one you already know, as I have told you about the events of Morathi's ascension. Lords of Pain are they called. Gasterix is one of them, but he's not special enough to stick out of the masses of Lords of Pain. Each one of them is a dedicated devotee of Slaanesh and has experienced many kinds of pain and agony. Devotees are encouraged to indulge themselves in many different ways, but the majority of them sticks to one sensation and becomes a lady or lord of this particular kind. The Pain ones train themselves to the peak of mortal capability to endure pain as much as possible, and they will destroy enemies which are even greater than they are. Sadists through and through, they torture themselves as they torture their enemies. The Dark Prince has a special interest in these individuals, as mortals are usually not very fond of pain. He even will steal their other senses, so that they are devoid of anything but pain. Receiving or inflicting, it does not matter to them. So that is the reason why they wear almost no armor. They want to savor every cut, every bruise and bite. Their physique swollen by the gifts of Slaanesh. It is very easy to hit them. Shardspeakers are the very opposite of the Lords of Pain. They walk a path of solitude. In one hand they hold their haste staff, and in their other a mirror framed in rich golden leaf. As Slaanesh has a perverse fascination with mirrors, it is natural to find some in his devotees. But these mirrors are not the kind you would find in the shop next door, no. These mirrors are shards of Slaanesh's own design. The temple of twisted mirrors in his realm was once besieged and defiled by Khorne's armies. The Dark Prince, as always, saw an opportunity in this, and sent forth his demons to gift the broken shards to his mortal sorcerers. As they looked into the mirror, Slaanesh looked into their souls. So they learned this little trick to look into the souls of their initiates and champions to discern their desires. They are masters of pleasure and pain magic. But their most dangerous talent lies in the mirror. They are able to focus on the mirror and a specific individual on the battlefield, so that they see the desires and reflect these back at them. Their enemies are forced to indulge their desires, while their rational part of their minds is sent to the Temple of Twisted Mirrors, forced to watch what their bodies are doing with their comrades. There are two very special individuals I want to talk about. As there are 6 circles in the realm of Slaanesh, you can see the embodiments of 2 of them in these beings. The other 4 are still at large. Gluttony and Vainglory. Glutos Orscollion, the Lord of Gluttony. The Grand Gorman, the Vintner of Souls. The Scrumptious Sinner. These are just a few of his titles. Not able to walk for himself, he sits atop his own palanquin. His body is swollen to unnatural proportions. Slaanesh's gifts sprouting out of his body, tentacles and other unnerving extremities. But it was not always like that. His family, the Orscollions, was a failing trade family in Hyeish. He was a skinny fellow, with almost no money left. He began to steal everything. Once he broke into the temple of Cornucopian Rite in Xintil to steal the sacred golden grain. His hunger was great, and so he ate the grain on the spot. That was the deed which has doomed him for all eternity. Not knowing that the rite was secretly devoted to the Slaaneshi demon Loth-Shah, he was stricken with hunger, which spiraled into near endless pain as the demon latched itself to him. He spent all his coin to eat everything money could buy, but still it wasn't enough. The constant whispers of the demon drove him mad, and he even ate a rotting corpse. It was this moment in which his soul shattered, and the shade of Loth-Shah appeared in front of him. He promised the young Orscollion that he will banish his hunger if he finds more esoteric treats. The more esoteric treats in Hyeish are pretty simple to come by. Elven wizard flesh. The more he ate, the more the demon favored him, and the fatter he grew. Of course, the inner circles of the Hedonite society heard whispers of their grand gourmand, and they flocked around him like birds of prey looking for a morsel at his feet. They brought him innumerable different kinds of food, and with every flavor he became more powerful in the dark arts of magic. If he should taste repetitive flavors, this power will wane. Like many of the Hedonite society, he has a retinue, ready to enact his vile will just for a glimpse of their desires fulfilled. Namely, Painbringer Kiazu, Priestess of Right Dolicy, Lashmaster Visk, and his homunculus, Gore Malice. But I should not forget his demonic patron Lothshar, as he surveys their surroundings through Glutos' mirror staff. The last character I want to talk about is an old foe of mine. Sigvald the Magnificent, Prince of Slaanesh. I know him since he took his first steps on the world that was. He is the embodiment of vainglory. A vile soul hides behind his youthful features. Did you know that he apparently ate his own father? He was a strange one, I tell you. He floated over the ground so that his feet may never touch the unworthy ground, and the inner side of his shield was a mirror, so that he could fall in love with himself over and over again, even in battle. Sometimes it was pretty stupid. But his legend died like him, as the Troll King defeated him only after he destroyed one of Nagash's Mortarchs. As Slaanesh ignored his soul for his defeat, Nagash never forgot. And how could he? Nagash was able to devour Sigvald's soul, but that was definitely not his style with someone who insulted him. A slow punishment would be more fitting. Trapped into shade glass, no one was able to see him, but they saw a perfect idealistic image of themselves, and so the mirror was forgotten, as the city of Shadespire was cast into the subrealm Ulgish. Luckily for Sigvald, Slaanesh was his prison mate, and the more shackles were broken, the more powerful both of them became. The mirror was found by a Caradron expedition, and after their untimely demise, a Godseeker caravan found it. With Sigvald's powers waxing, he conjured a twisted image of the leading Hedonite. In his rage, he struck the mirror. As the mirror broke into countless colorful shards, Slaanesh's interest in Sigvald was reignited, as he saw how his once beloved prince rose from such a devastating end to a fiery rebirth of cunning and egotism. Reformed, and with the might of Slaanesh in him, the Hedonites looked upon him in worship and fell to their knees. With his new followers, he sought revenge upon the troll race, but for that he needed a new weapon. For his name to echo throughout the realms, he needed a sword without equal. His old sword, Sliverslash, was forged from the fragments of Slaanesh's blade. But there are many pretenders who claim to wield such a sword, so that was not an option. So he ventured into the Palace of Pleasure's armory and bargained with the demon artisan for a new blade. He gave him a part of his soul in the form of 6 locks of his golden hair, and so the works on his new sword began. Shardslash was forged from the fragments of his old prison, and it is able to trap the souls of its victims for the prince to torment later. He is a saint of Slaanesh, and no matter if the Sybarites should be a Godseeker, invader or pretender, they all follow Sigvald, basking in his glory. He is a sword master without equal, in his eyes. But it is true that there are just a handful warriors capable of harming him in single combat. His legend already flows through the mortal realms. And yet, behind his beautiful mask of composure, there is a shame hidden beneath his smirk. A single scar marks his body, given to him by an old long-dead foe, Nagash Smortark. Sigvald is not a fool. He dares not to venture into Nagash's throne room, but he will bleed his empire dry by 1,000 cuts. And so his gaze is fixed on the Oziarch Empire. Over all my stories about the Hedonites, I mentioned 3 various hosts. There isn't much to talk about the Godseekers, Invaders and Pretenders, so I will glance over them just real quick and tell you about their specific quirks. Believing that they can find their god somewhere in the mortal realms, the Godseekers follow every scent of depravity, every rumor, and every clue. Their mutations tend towards their sensory organs. Their sense of smell, hearing, tasting, and their eyesight is vastly improved. This way, they are able to track the Dark Prince to his prison, or so they believe. They try to extract information out of nobles, kings, and persons of interest, as they believe that no simple mortal could have the information to Slaanesh's whereabouts. But some of them are attracted to the realm of shadows, Ulgu. As we know, Slaanesh gravitates towards Ulgu in his prison, and the newborn starts to evolve in the dark recesses of the realm. The majority of the Hedonites are invaders, as battle is one of the greatest sources for sensation. Infatuated with the act of killing, they will do everything in their power, even dying, to kill their prey. Unlike their demonic counterparts of Khorne or Nurgle, they see the defilement of the realms as an art form, the realm itself as a canvas to be painted in the Dark Prince's image. There are unbelievable amounts of characters leading the invader hosts. You can't tell who is a real leader and who is a subordinate, but mostly they are led by keepers of secrets, as it is their duty to spread the word of access. Narcissistic or obsessed with themselves is by far the weaker words to describe a pretender. With Slaanesh missing, they believe that the throne is theirs for the taking, and the other gods of chaos will accept them in their ranks. Of course only for so long until Slaanesh escapes from his prison and devours all pretenders into his essence. They are followed by sycophants who believe that the pretender speaks the truth and want nothing more to be noticed by their god. But this is only a coping mechanism, as every Hedonite misses Slaanesh. If a pretender leader should fall in battle, the followers will rip and tear everything apart, as they believe that Slaanesh is dead and nothing has meaning, until a new pretender appears to take control of those poor lost souls. I know this was a long meeting, my friend. Thank you for staying and listening. I'm keen to know what you think about everything I told you. Just leave me a note under my table. I would appreciate if you would tell your friends of this place. It is a deep desire of mine to tell the stories to as many friends as possible. I would be in your debt. I hope you will lend your ear to my stories again. I have many more for you to quench your thirst for knowledge. You just have to listen for the bell, and you will know that I'm here again, waiting for you. Have a good night, friend, and please, stay fantastic. Bye.